Welcome back to the Brent Bruce Daily, where each day we take a look and see where home loan interest rates really are, what is making the move, and what to expect for the future. Today is April the 13th, 2023. It is now 1:45 p.m. Central Time, and we are seeing inflation coming down. As we talked about yesterday, today was the release of the Producer Price Index, which measures wholesale inflation and is number 4 on the items that we watch most closely when looking to the future and predicting where home loan interest rates are going to go. So we're going to talk about why inflation is coming down and how we can show that here in just a minute. I will pull up some information, but let's first talk about the fact that the four things that we pay attention to are: number one, the moves by the Federal Reserve to the federal funds rate. Number two is the consumer price index, because is the personal consumption expenditures, the PCE, because that is the favorite measure of inflation of the Federal Reserve. The third is the consumer price index, and the fourth is the producer price index. Now, the PPI, the report that came out today, measures wholesale inflation. So I like to always say, if the personal consumption expenditures and the consumer price index reports are measuring the cost of a certain basket of goods, the producer price index is measuring the cost of the materials that it takes to create that basket of goods. So if you're talking about the cost of a Snickers bar, that's the CPI and the PCE reports. If you want to know how much the cost of the chocolate that it takes to make the Snickers bar, that's the producer price index. Now, the reason I'm getting into that in more detail is because those four reports really are like seats on a roller coaster. And we talk about that inflation goes up and it rolls over the top and it starts to come down. Now, while my list is in reverse of the seats that are on the roller coaster, okay, so follow me on this. So the producer price index actually is at the head of the roller coaster. Then it is the consumer price index. Then it is the personal consumption expenditures report. And then it is the moves by the Federal Reserve. Because think about it, the Federal Reserve is going to make their moves based on what those other reports are telling them. So we're going to see the effects more quickly in the reverse order. And the reason I'm, again, bringing that up is because today's producer price index shows inflation down a lot. So inflation came down very hard in the producer prices index that was released today. In fact, it actually shows the cost of some of the goods less than what they were last month. So whenever we talk about inflation, we're always talking about how much the cost of goods went up month over month. So when we say that it went up 0.3%, that means that that product cost 0.3% more for the same product than the month before. Now, this report actually showed the cost of goods less than the month before. So negative inflation on some of these reports, which is good to see. We don't want to see too much of that. We don't want to have, deflationary pressures that become a real problem. But this is a very good report. And again, because it's at the front of the roller coaster, it's showing a more dramatic drop in inflation. And that is why we can feel confident that the rest of the roller coaster is going to follow. It is connected. If the cost of the chocolate of making a Snickers bar becomes less, that will allow the Snickers manufacturers to sell that chocolate bar for less and still make their same profit. Now, for a while, they may not pass on that savings. So there are times when it takes a little while longer before it rolls into the consumer's hands, consumer price index and personal consumption expenditures reports. So I hope that you're following on me on that. But the thing that you need to understand is that the leading indicator of the reduction of inflation is the PPI report, the Producers Price Index, and that was way down. So let's take a look and see what we're talking about here. So let's jump over here, first of all, to the actual report right here. If we go into Reuters, we're going to pull Reuters up here. It says U.S. producer prices unexpectedly fall in March. Not really that unexpected to some of us, but they talked about that it is quite a bit down. So when it says the PPI increased 2.7%, again, we're always talking about the increased cost of goods. Well, you go, oh, well, it went up 2.7%. But last month it was going up by a rate of 4.9%. That is a 2% reduction in 1 month report. Huge difference. This actually shows right here the producer price index for final demand dropped by 0.5%. So instead of the word increased, they used dropped. It became less expensive to buy the same product, which has not happened in about 2 years. How long has inflation been a problem? About 2 years. Okay, so we are getting back to where we need to be. Let's go down here quickly and take a look at, again, the core reading, because we always want to take a look at the core reading of these reports, excluding food and energy and trade service components. Producer prices gained 0.1% in March. So it went up from a core reading, it went up 0.1%. The core PPI climbed 0.2 in February. So in February was 0.2, in March it's 0.1. So by my math, that says that it's half of what it was last month. It also talks about the annual reading, which was at 4.5% on a year over year reading in February, and it dropped to 3.6% in 1 month's change. That is a tremendous change, 0.9% in 1 month. Great news for us. The reason I'm getting so far into this is because you are seeing, if you're watching the Brent Bruce Daily, and you should, make sure that you like, subscribe, and share, and hit that little bell on the top to be notified. You are being taught how mortgage interest rates move and why they move. You're learning about how inflation moves, and this directly ties to home loan interest rates, which I'll have to get into the correlation between inflation and mortgage interest rates here another day. But let's take a look and see where we are at our charts, and then where home loan interest rates are after such a great producer price index report that came out this morning. So right now we are down 9 basis points. So what do you think? That's kind of a surprise after what I just told you, that we're down 9 instead of up 20 after having such a strong reading showing inflation coming down on the producer price index. We're up 5 basis points on the 10-year treasury. Also not that good from what we would expect. Taking a look here at our charts, you can see that we were above our 200-day moving average, but we're pushed back down. Now, from here going forward, a couple of things that we have coming is the personal consumption expenditures. That is our number 2 on the top reports that we pay attention to, comes out at the end of the month. So it will be April the 28th when we get that report. And really, that's 15 days from now before we get our next big report. After that, I believe that we are talking about May 3rd is going to be the next announcement from the Federal Reserve as to what they're going to do with the federal funds rate. And we're predicting that they're either going to pause the increases to the federal funds rate, or it will be the last in this cycle of increasing the federal funds rate. So either way, good news. So with those reports being so far down the line, what is going to dictate whether we have interest rates go up, down, or where the mortgage-backed security market goes? Well, a lot of it is going to come to some of the other items that we would normally be paying attention to. Guys, I've been doing this for 15 years, and we haven't always been talking about nothing but inflation. All those inflationary pressures mattered, but not so much as they do today. Other things mattered. And today we had a 30-year bond auction. So obviously the 30-year bond is a tight competitor with a 30-year mortgage-backed security. Which one are you going to purchase, right? The 30-year bond is a major competitor to the 30-year mortgage-backed security. It did not have a very good sale today. Not many people were interested in buying a 30-year bond, which is not a good indicator for home loan interest rates. And that's why I think that we're seeing a retraction from the ground that we made earlier in the day from the producer price index report. But also understand that we've talked about the producer price index report doesn't get as much respect as some of the other reports. It's just not as influential as the PCE and the CPI reports. And you're seeing that in the way that it's actually moving the market. Let's take a look at our home loan interest rates as of today. Okay, so again, we are now down 9 basis points. I have seen an intraday reprice today as rates moved around. So let's run this Brent Bruce Daily, our very well qualified 30-year fixed conventional home loan. And maybe in the next day or two, when I don't have so much data to go over, we'll run a lot more scenarios as far as FICO scores and down payments and all that. and see the effects of how that changes our rates. But right now we're at 6.5% with a pretty healthy credit of $112. That's with Flagstar. Here's United at 6.5% with 940 back. We always like to take a look and see what United Wholesale is doing with their buy down to get to 5.99%. Okay, look at this. This was a big move today. Man, I'm surprised by this right now. 5.999 is costing a half of a point. That is not where it was earlier today. It was closer to a full point. So we have seen the banks release some of their gains. Remember, banks don't have to pass along the gains until they're ready. So they have released some of their gains, at least United Wholesale did there, making a 5.999% interest rate on a 30-year fixed conventional home loan for a very well-qualified client with 25% down only cost a half of a point, which isn't going to be too difficult if the market moves our way a little bit further to where that would dissolve and we would have that at no points. Okay, so you can see how this is moving today. I will get back to you again tomorrow. Make sure that you like, subscribe, and share. And hopefully we'll be talking about the fives with no points in the coming days. We'll talk to you again soon.